Most people wait for motivation the way farmers wait for rain, hoping that one day, somehow something outside of them will arrive and magically change everything. They wait for the right day, the right feeling, the right mood, the right spark before they start building the life they want. But the truth is harsh and simple. Motivation is unreliable, and the people who depend on it remain stuck forever. Discipline, not motivation, is the force that builds empires, transforms identities, and changes the course of history. Discipline is boring, repetitive, unglamorous, but it is the only thing that keeps you moving when your emotions betray you. Emotions fluctuate. Motivation fades. Willpower collapses. But discipline, if built correctly, becomes a silent engine that does not negotiate with your mood or your comfort. To understand why discipline matters more than motivation, you have to understand the fundamental difference between the two. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is structural. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the fire. Motivation pushes you once. Discipline pushes you daily. Motivation asks, "Do I feel like doing it?" Discipline says, "It doesn't matter." Motivation is loud and exciting but disappears quickly. Discipline is quiet, sometimes even invisible, but it rewires your identity at the deepest level. People think successful individuals are highly motivated people. But in reality, they are simply highly disciplined people who learned how to keep moving even when they didn't feel like it. And to prove that discipline has always beaten motivation, not just today, but throughout human history, let me take you into one of the most powerful historical examples of discipline reshaping destiny. In the 3rd century BC, there was a young boy named Ashoka, born into the Mauryan royal family. Unlike his brothers, he was not the favorite child. Unlike many leaders of his time, he did not grow up with glory or admiration. He was often criticized for being too serious, too quiet, too intense. But what separated him from everyone else was not charm, not talent, not luck, discipline. He trained harder, studied longer, and prepared consistently without waiting for praise. History rarely talks about his youth, but records reveal that Ashoka's rise was not because he was motivated, but because he was disciplined enough to show up every single day even when nobody believed in him. When he became emperor, his motivation didn't carry him through the responsibilities of ruling one of the largest empires in ancient history. His discipline did. During the brutal Kalinga War, the aftermath broke him emotionally. For most people, that kind of emotional collapse would end their journey. But Ashoka made a disciplined choice. Instead of letting guilt destroy him, he dedicated the rest of his life to governance, peace, justice, and welfare with relentless consistency. He didn't rely on feeling good to do what was right. He built systems, routines, and principles that guided him regardless of emotion. And because of that discipline, Ashoka transformed from a feared conqueror into one of the most respected leaders the world has ever seen. Not because motivation changed him, but because discipline rebuilt him. You may not be a king or a warrior, but your life is shaped by the same rule. Discipline transforms you in ways motivation never will. Whether you're trying to build a business, change your health, grow your income, fix your habits, or rebuild your identity, motivation will fail you again and again. Discipline is what keeps you going long after motivation has left the room. Discipline is waking up before the world does. Discipline is working on your goals when nobody is watching. Discipline is putting in effort on days when your heart isn't in it. Discipline is choosing long-term gain over short-term comfort. Discipline is doing the right thing, even when the wrong thing is easier. Motivation gives you a push. Discipline gives you progress. Motivation gives you excitement. Discipline gives you results. Motivation gives you a moment. Discipline gives you a lifetime. And the reason discipline is so rare is because it requires you to confront a truth most people spend their lives avoiding. You are responsible for your life. No one else. Not your mood. Not your circumstances. Not your background. Not your feelings. Once you understand this, discipline stops feeling like a punishment and starts feeling like a superpower. People often say they lack motivation, but the reality is that they lack discipline because they lack structure. Motivation needs inspiration. Discipline needs a plan. Motivation needs excitement. Discipline needs consistency. Motivation thrives on emotion. Discipline thrives on routine. This is why disciplined people achieve things that motivated people only dream about. But discipline is not something you wake up with. It is something you build. Slowly, patiently, uncomfortably. Through repetition so consistent that your behavior becomes stronger than your excuses. The first step is always the hardest. And the next 50 steps might not be easier. But one day, without noticing, you develop a rhythm. Your identity shifts. You stop saying, "I hope I can," and you start saying, "I do this." That shift is not motivational. It's disciplinary. It happens inside your character, not inside your feelings. Motivation is a beautiful spark, but a terrible foundation. It shows up fast, burns bright, and disappears the moment life stops being convenient. Discipline, on the other hand, is slow, quiet, almost invisible at first. It doesn't give you butterflies. It doesn't give you adrenaline. It doesn't make you feel powerful in the beginning. Instead, it tests you. It confronts you. It forces you to meet the version of yourself you've been avoiding for years. That's why most people love motivation, but run from discipline. Motivation feels good. Discipline feels necessary. Motivation lifts you up. Discipline builds you up. Motivation is a wave. Discipline is the ocean. One rises for a moment. The other stays, even when storms hit. And to understand why discipline is the real engine of progress, you must first understand this. Every meaningful thing in life requires consistency long after motivation has died. You don't lose because you lacked passion. You lose because you lacked structure. You lose because your emotions controlled your actions. You lose because you treated progress like a mood, not a responsibility. Motivation is emotional. Discipline is ethical. Motivation asks, "Do I feel like it today?" Discipline says, "This is who I am, whether I feel like it or not." But nothing reveals the power of discipline better than history, because the people who shaped the world didn't rely on motivation. Motivation didn't build nations. Motivation didn't create breakthroughs. Motivation didn't carry leaders through long nights, war, loss, setbacks, and betrayal. Discipline did. During the Sengoku period in Japan, a time of war, chaos, and shifting alliances, there lived a samurai named Toriyama Tada. He was not the strongest warrior, not the fastest, not the most celebrated. But he had something far more powerful than natural talent, a level of discipline that was almost frightening. In 1600, when the great warlord Tokugawa Ieyasu marched his troops toward the decisive battle of Sekigahara, he left behind a crucial castle, Fushimi Castle, under the guardianship of Tada. The castle was doomed. The enemy forces were too large. Surrender made more sense. Running away made more sense. Even Ieyasu himself silently expected Tada to retreat, because no reasonable man would choose to die defending a castle that could not be saved. But Tada wasn't guided by feelings. He wasn't guided by what made sense emotionally. He was guided by discipline, the discipline of loyalty, duty, and commitment to something bigger than himself. He wrote a final letter before the attack, a letter that has been studied for 400 years, where he said, "I will gladly lay down my life for the sake of loyalty. To flee would bring shame. I choose to stand." When the enemy arrived, Tada and his small garrison fought for 10 days, an impossible, brutal, relentless stand that shocked even their attackers. They held the castle long enough to delay the enemy army, giving Ieyasu the time he needed to prepare for the final battle. Tada died exactly as he had disciplined himself to live, not through emotion, but through principle. His sacrifice directly contributed to Ieyasu's victory at Sekigahara, the battle that unified Japan and began 260 years of peace under the Tokugawa shogunate. Think about that. A single man's discipline altered the course of a nation. Not motivation, not passion, discipline. The kind of discipline that says, "I will show up even when my feelings don't. Will commit even when my emotions scream otherwise. I will stay true even when everyone expects me to quit." That is the same discipline you need in modern life, not to die for a castle, but to build your life brick by brick, even when it hurts, even when it bores you, even when no one claps for you, even when the results are invisible. You don't need more motivation. You don't need more inspiration. You don't need to watch more videos or wait for the perfect mood. You need rules, self-created, self-respected, non-negotiable rules. Because discipline is not about pushing harder. It's about removing choice. When you remove choice, you remove resistance. You stop asking, should I? You simply do it. You wake up not because you're excited, but because it's time. You train not because it's fun, but because it's necessary. You work not because you're inspired, but because you're committed. Your emotions become background noise. Your identity becomes the driver. And the day you stop relying on motivation is the day you finally become unstoppable. Motivation collapses in the rain. Discipline trains in the rain. Motivation disappears after failure. Discipline studies the failure and returns stronger. Motivation fades when applause stops. Discipline works in the dark. Motivation is loud on day 1. Discipline is quiet and still there on day 1000. If motivation is the spark, discipline is the fire that keeps burning long after the spark is gone. No one taught you discipline. You were taught to chase results, to chase rewards, to chase praise, to chase excitement. You weren't taught how to build habits, how to stick to routines, how to control impulses, how to stay committed when bored, how to shut down distractions, how to return to the task after failing. Your brain learned to depend on mood, not structure. And moods are unstable. They change by the hour. That's why you're inconsistent, not because you're weak, but because you were never trained to be consistent. The good news? Discipline can be built by anyone. Not gifted people, not elite people, not special people. Anyone willing to repeat simple actions every day until they become identity. Discipline begins small, painfully small. Reading 1 page, doing 10 push-ups, waking up 5 minutes. Earlier writing 1 sentence, practicing 1 skill for 3 minutes. Why? Because discipline is not built through intensity. It's built through consistency. Intensity is motivation. Consistency is discipline. And consistency rewires your brain in ways motivation never can. It transforms actions into habits, habits into lifestyle, lifestyle into identity. When something becomes identity, you no longer struggle to do it, you struggle not to do it. There comes a day you won't even notice, where everything inside you shifts. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop delaying. You stop waiting to feel ready. You stop abandoning your plans after 1 bad day. You begin to act automatically, not emotionally. You begin to move with clarity, not confusion. You begin to build without needing a reason. This is the moment discipline replaces motivation. And the irony: when you become disciplined, motivation actually returns. Not as a crutch, but as a companion. It becomes the wind behind you, not the engine inside you. Discipline becomes the force that carries you into a version of life where most people never reach. Because they spend their whole existence waiting for the right feeling instead of building the right system. And when you finally understand that action creates clarity, while hesitation creates chaos, you stop looking for emotional permission and start designing daily rules strong enough to function even on your worst days. Because discipline is not about perfection, but about returning again and again. About coming back after failures that would break a motivated person in seconds. About choosing long-term identity over short-term comfort. And when you begin to live like this, life slowly bends in your favor, not because the universe magically starts supporting you, but because discipline silently multiplies your effort until it becomes undeniable. And the same world that once overlooked you begins to notice the consistency you built when no one was watching, the strength you built when no one was cheering, the resilience you built when no one understood why you were choosing the harder path. And as this transformation happens, you start to see people differently. You start to notice how many lives stop halfway because the moment motivation dies, their entire journey collapses with it. Yet the disciplined ones move forward like a slow, unstoppable tide, breaking resistance layer by layer, building mastery brick by brick, proving that greatness is not born in dramatic moments, but in small, boring repetitions that no one claps for. Repetitions that feel useless until the day they suddenly redefine you. And this is why the future belongs to the disciplined. Because motivation creates moments, but discipline creates momentum. And momentum is where breakthroughs live. And once you taste this momentum, once you see what your life looks like when you act regardless of feelings, once you realize that you can trust your actions more than your emotions, a shift happens so deep that you no longer recognize the old version of yourself who waited for inspiration, who needed mood to start, who relied on excitement to continue. And this shift unlocks a more powerful truth. Discipline quietly builds self-respect. The kind of self-respect no motivational quote can give you. Because when you consistently do what you told yourself you would do, even on the days you didn't want to, you begin to trust yourself in a way that feels unshakable. And that trust becomes your backbone, your anchor, your internal compass. The invisible force that holds you steady through chaos, temptation, fear, and exhaustion. And suddenly the things that once felt impossible begin to feel natural. The tasks that once drained you begin to feel manageable. The habits that once felt heavy begin to feel normal. Because discipline slowly becomes your default operating system. And this system begins to clean your life. It cleans your distractions. It cleans your excuses. It cleans your environment. It cleans your relationships. It cleans your mind. And the more you follow your rules, the more your rules begin to shape your world. Until you finally understand why the most successful people on earth don't chase motivation, they chase structure, routine, and identity. Because identity is destiny. And destiny bends for those who show up no matter what. And in this new way of living, you no longer ask, how do I stay motivated? Because you know motivation was never the goal. The goal was to become the kind of person who doesn't need it. The kind of person who works in silence, grows in silence, improves in silence, and lets results speak the language motivation never could. The kind of person who doesn't collapse after failure, but rebuilds stronger. Who doesn't quit after a bad day, but resets. Who doesn't look for miracles, but creates them one disciplined repetition at a time. And the more you live like this, the clearer it becomes that the life you want is not waiting for motivation. It is waiting for discipline. The quiet, unexciting, unromantic force that transforms people from dreamers into doers, from spectators into creators, from lost into unstoppable. And this is where most people misunderstand their journey. They think discipline takes away their freedom. When in reality, discipline is the only thing that gives you freedom. Freedom from laziness. Freedom from procrastination. Freedom from self-doubt. Freedom from the emotional roller coaster that keeps you productive one week and completely lost the next. Discipline is not a cage. Lack of discipline is. Lack of discipline traps you in the same habits, the same circumstances, the same income, the same body, same lifestyle, the same regrets. People don't stay stuck because life is unfair. They stay stuck because they never built the discipline to escape the conditions they hate. Every successful transformation in life begins with one sentence. I will not negotiate with myself anymore. The moment you say that and mean it, your life starts to change, not instantly, not dramatically, but quietly. You won't feel the change, but others will. They'll start noticing that you're more consistent, more focused, more controlled. They'll call you different, cold, obsessed, changed. But deep inside, you'll know you're finally becoming who you were meant to be. But discipline is not just about grinding. It's about alignment. It means building a routine that matches the life you want. It means treating your future self with respect, not disrespect. It means acting today in a way that your future self will thank you for, not curse you for. Every time you skip your work, your workout, your habits, your effort, you are stealing from your future self. Every time you show up, even a little bit, you are investing in that future self. Think about it like this. You're always building something. If you don't build discipline, you build regret. If you don't build progress, you build excuses. If you don't build habits, you build problems. Life does not stay neutral. It compounds in whichever direction you choose. And here's the hard truth. Nobody is coming to save you. Not a motivational video. Not a lucky opportunity. Not a miracle. Not the right time. If you don't take responsibility for your life, life will take responsibility for you, and it will do so brutally. But if you build discipline, life begins to bend slowly in your favor, not because you're lucky, but because you have earned control over yourself. The world respects the person who respects their own goals. Doors open for the person who shows up. Life becomes easier for the person who is willing to do difficult things. The best part? You don't have to feel ready, inspired, confident, or fearless to be disciplined. You can be tired and still be disciplined. You can be afraid and still be disciplined. You can be doubtful and still be disciplined. You can be heartbroken and still be disciplined. That is the real win. When your emotions say, stop, but your standards say continue. When your feelings say, later, but your identity says now. When your mind says I can't, but your behavior says I do. At that moment, discipline stops being something you do and becomes something you are. And once it becomes who you are, no mood, no person, no failure, no setback can stop you anymore. In the end, the people who win in life are not the most talented, not the most gifted, not the most intelligent. They're simply the people who learned how to show up, again and again, with or without motivation. Life rewards consistency far more than it rewards excitement. So if you truly want success, happiness, peace, confidence, strength, or transformation, stop waiting for motivation and start building discipline. One small rule at a time. One small action at a time. One small win at a time. And one day, not suddenly, but inevitably, you will wake up and realize that your life looks completely different. Not because you got lucky, but because you stayed consistent. That is the power discipline gives you, the power to become unstoppable, unshakable, undeniable. Motivation may start your journey, but discipline will finish it.